You're listening to the Dwell on These Things podcast. I'm John Stange, and today we have two very special guests with us. We have the Pressley Girls who are with us, and let me tell you a little bit about them in case you're not familiar with what they do or their music or anything like that. The Pressley Girls were born and raised in Brasstown, North Carolina. They're an authentic Appalachian duet that focuses on tight harmony and lyrical meaning. And they perform a wide range of music, including folk, bluegrass, gospel, and country. They admire the Louvin brothers, so maybe they'll share a little bit about that admiration. They love classic country singers and traditional folk musicians. And what they're trying to do is they're hoping to bring transcendent, genuine music back to the world. So Corey Pressley plays the guitar and mandolin while singing harmony with her sister Katie, who plays the fiddle while singing lead. And I'm sure we'll kind of revisit this in a little bit if I remember to say it, but I want to let you know right up front where you can find out more information about them. If you go to thepresleygirls.com, and that's Pressley is spelled with two S's, so thepresleygirls.com, you can see more about them and what they're doing, and be sure to check out their CD, When It Ends in a Walk, which is the most recent album I have purchased. I purchased it, I believe, last week or the week before, and I've been enjoying listening to it. So all that being said, Corey and Katie, it's so great to have you with us today. I'm so glad that you're here on the Dwell on These Things podcast. Please tell us a little bit more about what you guys are up to and maybe anything I missed in that introduction.
Yeah, thank you, John. We first just want to say thank you for having us on the podcast here. So you did a really good introduction there. So I'm trying to think what else we could say.
I think he pretty much he summed it up as far as what our music is about and where we want our music to go and what our goal with that is to bring kind of that classic sound that seems to be disappearing, kind of bring it back and be sure that it stays alive and to be able to share it with other people and as many people and audiences as possible. As far as what are we doing, Corey? What are we doing these days? We're playing a lot of music.
Yeah, and we also kind of have some other stuff going. Katie makes jewelry and cuts rocks.
For a living. That's what I do for a living.
For a living. I like to make soap. We try to get that on the Etsy store as we can. Like to work outside in the garden, be outside a lot as much as we can. We just kind of got a lot of random things.
Yeah, it's a very creative lifestyle. I think my family and I feel best when we're kind of expressing ourselves creatively, making something, having a project to continue to see growth with. I think is very satisfying to me, and it must be satisfying to my whole family because we all seem to be working on our little projects and some projects together.
I love it. And I think it's, you guys make what you're doing very well known on your YouTube channel and all the different projects that you're working on. So I've seen info that you've shared about creating soap and doing different projects with rocks and finding different interesting things. And I have to say, I'm going to ask you something in just a second here about your music. But this is what I've noticed. So typically in the evenings when I'm sitting down, one of my favorite things to do is just to kind of sit down and listen to music. And over the past few weeks, since I've discovered your music, you guys are now on my regular rotation. And this is what I think is kind of the secret to some of what you're doing. I think you guys make people happy. You're making people happy. Like you're bringing joy to the world. And so when I thought, you know what? I'm really enjoying the content that they're producing. And I thought, I'm just going to invite them to join me on the podcast one of these days and see if they'd be interested in doing that, because I want my listeners to know about the music that you're creating and the different things that you're doing. I think there's a lot into it that has a lot of value. And I'm curious, how did you guys get into performing and creating music? Was it something that you always enjoyed? Was it something that your family encouraged you to pursue? How did this all get started?
Yeah, we grew up in a really musical family, and we were blessed to do that. So our grandpa and great uncle had a band that toured the Southeast for like 40 years. By the time we were born, they were kindly starting to phase out of it. They were just getting older and just kind of couldn't do a lot of it anymore. But they would practice in our basement. So like we always grew up hearing that. And then we grew up singing in church as kids. And then by the time we kind of got old enough, our grandpa played with our uncle, his son. our uncle, and we would maybe just run in from playing and sing a song with him and run back out and play. And then once we got to maybe 8th or 9th grade, we got little bit more serious and picked up instruments. I picked up the fiddle first, actually, didn't stick with it, switched to guitar. So then she picked up the fiddle, and we kind of went from there. I mean, so our family definitely encouraged it. They didn't make us do it. It just kind of was already really going in there before we were even born. So then we come along and it was just kind of like, okay, if you want to do that.
It was already established. So we were blessed in that sense of the support system and the encouragement, and kind of just the basis to get started was just already existed by the time we were old enough to be interested. And then there was always instruments hanging around. I mean, every single get together, family get together, every single event, or just when we would go to a family's house, there was always an instrument. Somebody was always playing music. Somebody was always singing. And it was really not until I become an adult that I realized, wait a minute, that isn't the norm. I just assumed everybody grew up and all their aunts and uncles played and sang, or sung, maybe I should say there. And then I realized, wait a minute, this isn't the norm. People, it's not just music everywhere you go, people playing it, people wanting you to play it, encouraging you, helping you out. So it's kind of a joke. My dad, of course, is last name Pressley, but my mom is a Wilson. And so my mom's dad and his brother, so our grandpa and great uncle, they toured around as the Wilson brothers, and they did mostly gospel music. And so it was kind of always a running joke in the family. All the Wilson family, they all play instruments, and they all had the talent to play instruments. So it was like when a Wilson baby was going to be born, they would go to the hospital and bring some instruments and see which one the baby was interested in, and that was the one that they would be playing. It's like the deal is still you cooed at the banjo, you're the new banjo player. So which is funny, but it feels like that's exactly what happened. I mean, I grew up just at the knees of these people playing music, just watching and hearing and listening. And I don't think I realized how much it meant to me until some of those people were gone, until I was grown.
Isn't it interesting how certain things can just be part of the culture of your household, and you kind of take it for granted because for a long time, that's all you're familiar with. And then you get to a different season of life and you realize how special it is. I grew up with in the grocery business. My father owned a grocery store that was my grandfather's grocery store and my great-grandfather's prior to that. And so I grew up always, enjoying good deli meats and things like that. And I thought, okay, well, I guess everybody enjoys that, right? And no, not necessarily, But we didn't sing at family get-togethers. How does my family get invited to your family get-togethers so that we could sing?
Just bring some deli meat and you can come.
So we'll bring the deli meats, all right, and you guys sing. See, all my family did growing up at family get-togethers was complain. So that's like a form of singing, isn't it?
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. So how do most people often hear of your music? What seems to be the main way people are finding out about you guys? In a second, I'm going to tell you how I found out about you guys, but I'm just curious, in general, how do people know about you?
I think it's kind of, I would say maybe several different ways. I would say a lot, like right now, recently, like in the last year, a lot of it is through YouTube, because that's where we've kind of really put all our efforts is doing videos and lots of things like that. And then, of course, locally, I mean, just in our community, it's kind of become, I guess, word of mouth, because a lot of the times if you go and play a gig or play a show and they like you get asked back over and over. And then, and then those people swap contact with these people over there and over here and over there. And then before you know it, it can be, so it's kind of both.
Yeah. I do think a fair amount of it, especially in the beginning, was word of mouth. And then just like, oh, well, those Wilson brothers and their family sings too, and it's funny to think though, like even in my lifetime when we were in, even when we were in like 5th grade, the internet just wasn't what it is now, and YouTube wasn't what it is now. So even if you might have had 1 or 2 videos there, I don't think at that time it would have led to like a lot of interest in discovering our music. Plus we were like children too. So, that was like, 2007 maybe. So we were like 9 or something like that. But I mean, I do think at this day and age, with the internet being what it is and social media and just being connected to the world at just the touch of a button there, it has helped a lot. I like to say it's a blessing and a curse, but it also has really give us a lot of attention, for our music, and we hope everybody will spread the word.
Well, hey, we're going to do our part here with the podcast, but I'll tell you one of the things, and I mentioned this before our interview officially started here, we were just setting up. One of the things that I've noticed about your YouTube channel, there's not a whole lot of people that dislike it. I mean, typically when you go to a YouTube channel, there are, plenty of dislikes on just the most, whatever type of thing. And I notice, there'll be 600 likes on a video of yours and 0 dislikes. And I think, who's going to be the jerk that puts the first dislike on this? It's like you almost feel protective of it. You're thinking, you leave this alone. Don't mess with it. This is good stuff. But that's YouTube is where I found out about you guys. So, and I'll tell you how it happened. And YouTube is so strange. Don't you get a kick out of the things that it recommends to you?
Yes.
So the YouTube algorithm is how I know about you, but this is how it came about. I typically, so I live outside of Philadelphia. So do you suppose Philadelphia and Brasstown, North Carolina are slightly like different?
Yeah.
You think there might be a couple differences?
Yeah.
Like I think one of the differences in Brasstown, you have manners, and here in Philadelphia, where we forgot what those are. But I'm in a suburb of Philadelphia, and I love Pennsylvania. I grew up here in Pennsylvania, and but I daydream all the time of just having a place in the country, doing something like that. That's kind of the vibe of our household, and just kind of the way we roll here. And it's interesting because you look at my kids; they're very much into country music, and sometimes people scratch their head and they think, "How are you guys the way you are?" Like you're not from Brasstown, North Carolina. Why do you like this stuff? I don't have a good answer for that. I just like it. And so I think YouTube knows that I like stuff like that. And it recommended one of your mother's videos. And it was a video where I don't remember what the exact title was. You could probably tell me better than I could, but it was one of the videos where she was teaching people the meaning of Appalachian words and just different things about Appalachian culture. And she was interviewing the two of you and kind of testing the two of you on this. And my wife is a professor at a local college, and she also teaches English. And so when she saw that I pressed play and we were listening to this, she's like, "Oh wait, make sure that stays on. I want to hear that to the end," because she was fascinated with it, just like I was. And so the two of us were sitting there listening, and then after we watched the video, it was probably about 10 minutes. And I thought it was extremely interesting. It gave me a lot of insight into my first church. The first church I pastored is so the Appalachian influence and region, it stretches pretty far up the East Coast.
Oh, sure.
And the first church that I pastored is in the Appalachian region of Pennsylvania. And there were a lot of things about the culture there that I didn't quite understand. And it was like helping me to piece a bunch of these things together. And so after watching that, then I noticed that your mother had a link in that video or in the description to one of your music videos, just you guys singing outside. And so we clicked on it and followed it. And I looked over at my wife and she looked at me and we're like, this is wonderful. Like, what is this? Like, what have we just discovered? Like this has such a pleasant sound. And so we listened to that song and we're like, well, what else is there? And so we just kept listening to a whole bunch of songs that you guys recorded. And I thought, wow, I love this. And so that night we bought your CD and she and I were talking and I said, boy, I should invite them onto the podcast. I would love to introduce others to their music. So I hope if you're listening to this, do two things. All right, just do me a favor. Check out their YouTube channel. Just go to the Pressley Girls at YouTube, right? So that's pretty easy to find. But order their CD, When It Ends in a Walk. You'll find it right on their website. I promise you won't be disappointed. I listened to it in my car. I really enjoy it. But that's how I found you. I found you through YouTube recommending stuff like that because they know that I'm this guy that lives near a major city yet oftentimes daydreams about what it would be like to bring more country to the Philadelphia region. So that's it. So keep investing in YouTube, because it's certainly helping you guys get out there. But I'm assuming that's what you're noticing based on what you said as well.
Yeah, we're definitely, and thank you for that. That's so
That's
cool.
awesome.
I mean, that's been the biggest blessing about the YouTube, is that with our YouTube and Mom's YouTube, is that it's connected us to all kinds of people. And that's awesome. It's really cool. And it kind of goes back to, it makes me think like what you were saying earlier about our videos making people happy. That means the world to me. If I can just do that, like with what we're doing, make people happy, make people think about something else for a while, then I'm good to go. I mean, that's great.
Me too. It's funny. YouTube is smart like that. Yeah, it's always recommending stuff about rocks to me, of course, because I like rocks. And sometimes rock music, because I like rock and roll music, and just it is smart. But it's funny how you find people. We've had made a lot of friends who said, "Found you on YouTube. I was looking at my normal stuff, and then you were on the side," and I was like, "Who are those people?" And it always struck me as funny. I always think, well, they're on the YouTube, like they're big people, whoever it is that I think is cool. I'm like, they don't want to talk to me, but they're just people, just like I am, just like we are. So it is fun to I kind of turn people on YouTube into celebrities, and I'm like, I could be a celebrity myself in someone else's eyes.
That's who you guys are to other people. And I appreciate the way you guys are using that platform. I feel like you're using that to really edify. And Corey, there was something specifically that you mentioned in one of the videos that we found that night, where it looked like you had just taken a walk. You're in kind of a wooded setting, and you're going through a variety of scriptures that had spoken to you related to issues like anxiety, or related to issues like trusting the Lord, related to prayer. And I wonder if you could just maybe tell us a little bit about how you guys are making investments in your spiritual walk, because that's kind of the theme of what we're talking about here with the podcast. We're talking about where our minds go. We want to dwell on things that ultimately glorify Christ. And so how does that look like in your lives?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We try to be really intentional with the channel. I mean, I try to really think out what videos I'm going to post, how I'm going to do them, and especially videos like that. That's something that video specifically, I had wanted to make that video for like 6 or 8 weeks, and every time I tried to do it, it just didn't work. I don't know. It's just I just can't do this. This is not the right time. So I let it set kind of by itself, and then over time kind of compiled stuff and thought, okay, and so did the video. But I try to just be intentional, and of course praying about it, just that it would be what God wants it to be, just that we've been able to do this, and now kind of have this be our sort of full-time thing with other things is a blessing. And I try to kind of let it be up to him where it goes. And yeah.
I mean, I definitely feel that way about it. Just try to be, instead of slapping something together, which we all do that sometimes when you're busy and you're like, I have to get something up there, and I haven't got anything up there. But being really specific, like, hey, in those comments, these people said they would be interested in hearing this song or seeing this, and they're supporting us. So what could we show them? And then just kind of that old adage of well, this is what helped me when I was struggling, so maybe it'll help somebody else if I share that. Mama told me this and it made me feel better, so I should tell YouTube that, because It might make somebody out there feeling down in the dumps feel better about themselves. But as far as, I think investing in my faith, it's something interesting that I had been talking to Corey about lately. Is I think God has I know he has a very specific plan and will and hopes and desires for everybody. And it's really easy to think, I want what I want. I want my will. I want what Katie wants. And Katie knows. And Katie can do this. And Katie. So it's kind of, the investment is to let go of the struggle, the tug and the push. And letting go means you're submitting yourself to whatever it is that God wants for you. Therefore, you're investing in something good, something for the future, something for people who need it, because that's what God does. He uses people to speak through. And it's hard. It's hard to submit yourself and let go of what it is that you desire and you want. And but at the end of the day, whatever you're wanting is a tiny little speck of salt, compared to the huge, wonderful thing that God is. So part of the investment in the YouTube for me has been like, now this ain't all about you and what you want and what you think you want, Katie.
Yeah.
It's about let God talk. And maybe God's talking through Corey, and Corey says, let's do this video. And I'm like, yeah, I think that's a really good idea. Wow, people will really like that.
Right. And I was going to say, too, just because, I mean, God has allowed us to do this. I mean, this is why we're not allowed, I don't want to phrase it like that, but that,
the blessing he has given us.
To get to be able to do these YouTube videos. So then I try to keep that in mind and think that these videos should be about glorifying him, even if it's not a strict video talking about scripture, even if it's just, in the video, we try to, kind of bring it back to that, at least sometimes saying, oh, we're so blessed to get to do this because, yeah.
Isn't it something to think that a YouTube channel and some of the things that you're doing online can be used of God as a ministry? It's something that's ministering to other people. That's an exciting thought, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I'm immediately like, I'm so undeserving and unworthy, but we're so thankful and blessed to do it, because that's just the thing. I know that at the times when I'm the weakest and everything's scary and I feel like crying and blah, 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 then I imagine, okay, well, this is how I feel right now at my weakest. Well, then how is it that when I'm at my strongest, that all these good things are happening? And that's how I know it's not me doing it. It's not at my weakest. I'm like, now really, how are all these really big things bigger than me happening? That's how I know it's God. So you say, thank you, be grateful, have gratitude for that, and keep on trucking.
And it does. I mean, it feels amazing. I would have never thought that we could minister to people, online. I just thought it would have to be, well, when we go to gigs, we sing these gospel songs, which we love. We're still going to do that, of course. But yeah, it's really neat to get to do that through the internet too, because you can reach a lot of people.
Yeah. And like I said, I feel so unworthy. But whatever God says, whatever it is that I feel like he's nudging at me to do, I just do it and hope that's what he wants, what will be the best.
Totally. And I love what you guys are doing with the opportunity that he's blessing you with. It really is ministering to people. And that's certainly an encouragement. And I think a lot of people are afraid to do the type of things that you guys are doing because, when you put yourself out there like this, there's going to be people that are critics. There are going to be people that are haters for no good reason, just because they feel like picking apart what somebody else does. I know that that's something that over the years of me doing things online or developing my podcasts or anything like that, from time to time, I deal with things like that. And it's not pleasant, but the nice thing is now and then you get a nice message from somebody, or you find out from someone that something you took the time to put together ministered to someone, and it kind of eggs you on to keep going.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So I want to transition our conversation back to something that we talked about just a couple minutes ago when I said that I discovered your channel through your mother's channel when she was interviewing you guys about certain Appalachian words. And so I asked Corey and Katie ahead of time if they would quiz me on this. Now, to give you a little bit of background on what goes on here, on her mother's channel, now what's the official name of your mother's channel? Let's give her channel a plug too.
Yeah, thank you. It's called Celebrating Appalachia.
All right, Celebrating Appalachia. Their mother's channel is fantastic as well. And apparently, did she just cross over 100,000 subscribers?
Yes, did,
Good for her. Does that surprise her?
It does. We're all kind of shocked.
She's going to get one of those YouTube awards that they send, those plaques. Do you ever see those?
Yeah.
She's going to have to put that up in the kitchen. So when she's filming in the kitchen, there's, it's just this nice home kitchen and then a YouTube award, 100,000. It probably doesn't fit, but it should.
The funny thing about it is, the hilarious thing about it is my mom is shy. She's nothing like me. She's nothing like us. Well, even Corey is shy compared to me, but now Mom is painfully shy. Mom told us this story one time when she was a little girl on the playground. Somebody would come once or twice a week and mow the grass so it didn't get really tall, and the kids would go out and get all itchy and stuff. So the grass mowed, And she said the janitor, whoever it was out there mowing grass, and she was on the other side of the fence, and she just got a little too close to him, and a rock flew up and hit her. in the arm, and it hit her pretty bad, enough to start bleeding and be an issue. But she said it hurt, and she was worried that it was bleeding, but she was so bashful she wouldn't tell anybody. She just covered it up until one of the teachers was like, "Oh my gosh, what's happened? Are you okay?" And she's got a nice little scar from that, but she's just so bashful. She didn't tell anybody that she was bleeding and hurt. So that's why she's surprised. She's like, 100,000 subscribers. I had no idea I could ever do this with as like shy as I am. My life is an open book, for better or worse, whatever, you know? So we're proud of Mom. We're very proud.
She's doing a great job. And so what she'll do, so just, you know, if you're listening here on the podcast, what their mother will do is she'll take uncommon slang, right? We would say probably like slang from the Appalachian region, or words that are more common in that region that most people, even people living there now, wouldn't necessarily be familiar with. And so that was my whole introduction to all this. And I thought it was funny. And so it's almost like a guessing game, you know, when we were watching that, trying to figure out, all right, what does this word mean? And so I messaged Corey and Katie before our interview, and I said, all right, just for fun, bring some words that are common Appalachian words and quiz me on these on the podcast. And let's see if I could get anywhere close. And I'm going to try my best here and try and figure out what these words mean. So grade on a curve. Okay. So if I only get it if I get close, yes, be like, all right, close enough. All right. So let's see. All right. What's word number one?
All right, Corey.
All right. Let's see. I've got some good words. This one you might know, but it's the word gom. G-O-M.
Oh boy, I'm gonna fail this test. Why would I? So gom. You know, so I mean, the only thing it sounds like is either gum or gone. So if something's like, all right, I'm going to say something that ran out is gum.
So like not exactly, if you
close, but
no, it'd be like, so if I were to say like, if you gum something up, that doesn't like it, to make a gum of something, like.
So just to goof something up, to mess something up?
To mess, like it's like a mess. Like you might say, your room is a gum, it's just messed. It just means like it's messy. And Mom would totally tell us that growing up, your room looks like a gum. You really need to fix it.
It's gum everything up. Yes. Why can't you be clean? It's like when we were kids, we had to take like 10 baths a day because we gummed. That's the past tense. You have gummed. You've just been just nasty, messed stuff up, got dirt everywhere. You won't do your laundry. Your room is a disaster. You're growing plants in there. It's so nasty. It's but gum. And that is I heard that too many times to count when I was a kid, and I still hear it.
So I need to find a way to use that here in the Philadelphia region today and see if I could completely confuse somebody. Oh my goodness, this place is a gum.
Yeah, that's it. Perfect.
That sounded really natural. That's it.
All right, word number 2. Let's hear it.
All right, this one is heap site. So this morning Mom and I actually had to put mulch in. Well, we put mulch in the chicken lot. So we used a heap site of mulch.
So all right, so in my mind, especially since you gave me context, you gave me some clues on that one, which means you must be feeling really bad for me, and we're only on the second word. So heap site, I'm thinking this is just where you would pile something. So things would just be piled there, right? If you're using like a large amount, if it's a heap site, right?
You got it there. Large amount. It just means a lot. Like a heap side of butter in the pan. Like I put a lot of butter in the pan for whatever.
Excessive amount of whatever it is.
Excessive amount. All right. A heap site. So you would say that of butter and of mulch.
Just anything.
Yeah, I mean, and I think what it comes from is like when I think of like heaping piles,
heaped over like
pile, like the mulch was just heaping out of the truck. It was falling out of the truck. There's so much in there.
Okay, all right, that's all right. That was fun. All right, word number 3. Let's hear it.
So this is my favorite one because
it's hard. You're gonna struggle.
Yeah, I mean, I struggled with this too. Some of these are ones like those two. I feel like we do use in our household. This one we don't really use as much. So it is pronounced leraping.
We'll spell it.
Yeah, Laurriping, layering. So if you want to say, yeah, and it's like specific to one thing. So like if I was gonna say, this would probably give it away, but still,
Don't say this word.
Well, no,
Give it away.
well, but
say
then what do
something
I
like
say?
this. That pan of green beans was just larafin.
So does it mean if something's laraping, does it mean it's good or it's delicious or something like that?
It like larapin good,
And it's
so
about
tasty.
It's like specifically about food. So like, that was larapin good or larapin.
What is the origin of that? Don't you wonder, like, where does this come from?
I'm not exactly sure. I wish we had Mom's Smoky Mountain English Dictionary with us because we
Mom's
can tell
got a book this big, and that's where all this stuff comes from. And a lot of these words are stuff I know I heard as a kid around a community center, my elders saying some of this stuff. Some of it I still say, but then there's some of it that I believe it's not made up, but it's just been so
died
long.
out, right?
Yeah, since people have used it, that even to me it sounds odd.
Okay. All right. Don't give me any context for this next one. Let's see if I get anywhere close with just the word. Let's hear it.
Katie uses this a lot.
I do. I use this on the daily. I use one or two versions of it, but I would say the word is no count.
No
two
count.
Words, but together, no count.
No count. So I'm picturing somebody. Well, it's hard to define this too. Like when you hear that, like no count. So I'm thinking somebody that, or just something that is not happening somehow. Like I'm just trying to, I'm saying, like, boy, I'm really stammering here to explain.
It's hard.
I would do terrible on your mother's channel here.
We didn't do so great either. We live here and we're bad.
It's like something that doesn't follow through or something that doesn't work out or I don't know. That would be my guess. Am I anywhere close?
Yeah, you're on the right track. So I would say something like, man, I picked up some squash at Walmart and it just was no count. It was bad. It wasn't any good. So I use that to say like, that person did something bad. So I was like, man, that was a kind of a no count thing to do. But mostly I say like, that's just no count.
Like if we eat somewhere and it wasn't good, we would say that all the time. Like that just wasn't no count. Or you can almost use it the other way around and say, ask someone, was that any account? And then meaning, was the food good? Did you like whatever you were experiencing?
So I always say no count. Like, man, that food was no count.
Like the worth of something.
Right. It wasn't good. It was a bad experience for me. But then sometimes I'll say like that person, not really person, but that thing, like there's just no account. That ain't no account.
Or was this any account?
Yeah. Or was the food any account? We say that all the time. If Granny goes somewhere, we should be like, was the food any account, any count? And that was her asking, was good. The food good? Does it measure up
to Granny's standards?
Yeah, is the thing. But I hear that a lot and I use it a lot. I've always heard it.
Can you imagine someone like me from the Philly region being asked that question, right? And just staring blankly and be like, I don't know. Wait, you're asking like, was there enough of it? What is this? Like if it's no count, but I'll tell you a word that I have learned from your mom's channel. I know that if the milk goes bad, it's blinked, right? Or it's blinky, right? Yeah. That's an Appalachian word, right? That it's blinky if the milk goes bad.
Yeah.
That's similar. So that blinky milk would be no count.
Yes, that's right. That's exactly right.
All right. I'm getting there. See this? All right. Give me another one. What do you got?
I want to do this one. Okay. So this word is, it's kind of weird to pronounce. Quietus.
Quietus.
Yeah.
Quietus.
Quietus, spell it, and it might help him.
It's spelled just like it sounds. Quietus. Quietus.
Quietus.
But it has a whole word in there.
Does it mean anything to do with being quiet? Is it anything like that? So, okay. So is it the state of being quiet?
Basically, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
And
Way.
yeah,
Look at
you
you
got
guys are teaching me a whole new language. I'm
yeah.
bilingual now. Thanks to the
Bilingual.
Pressley Girls, I'm bilingual.
All right.
It works.
You got it. You got it.
Let's do one more. Let's do one fine. What's the finale word?
Should we do that one or that one? I'm
We
going
should
with
do that one. Do that one.
Okay. This one, it may be obvious, may not be, but this is a whistle pig.
Oh, whistle pig. So I think a whistle pig is like a swine with some sort of a nasal allergy.
It is an animal.
It is an animal.
Oh, a whistle pig is an animal.
Yes.
It's not a pig.
But it's not a pig. Is it a bird? Is it a whistle pig a bird?
Nothing with wings, but something if you're not careful, you could potentially hit with your car. Well, I don't know if there's many of them up there, but there's a bunch of them down here.
Okay, so is it a deer?
No, smaller. Smaller.
Smaller? Would it be a skunk or an armadillo or something like that?
Close.
Possum?
Close.
Even closer.
Oh no, a squirrel?
Kind of like a squirrel, but bigger.
Oh boy, what's between possum and squirrel? Well, whistle pig. That's what's between possum and squirrel is a whistle pig.
Possum, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some pretty big possums, so I mean, I'm not gonna lie, but okay. So think time of year, shadows, seasons.
Groundhog.
Groundhog, yeah. And do you have a lot of groundhogs up there?
Okay. So Punxsutawney, you've heard of Punxsutawney with like groundhogs and stuff, right? Or maybe you haven't. Like for Groundhog's Day, where they have that groundhog that comes out and so that's in Punxsutawney. That's in Pennsylvania, and that is in the Appalachian region of Pennsylvania. So that's pretty close to where I served my first church that I was mentioning earlier. That was in that region, and there were certain things they would say that I was like, I have no idea what you're saying. And I thought, I grew up in Pennsylvania. How could we be speaking a different language? So, well, that was fun. I was glad you guys were willing to do that.
Yeah, sure.
All right. So a few other quick questions here for you. All right. So several years ago, we mentioned this a little bit already. I started dabbling into building an online platform. One of the best decisions I ever made. It's become like a big ministry. All of that. I help others do that as well. And I wonder, as you're building your platform online, so as you're developing this online, what advice would you give to somebody that decides to follow in your steps, that decides to kind of notice some of the things that you're doing and saying, I'm going to take the risk and I'm actually going to share my knowledge or my experience or content I'm creating online? What advice could you give?
Yeah, that's a good question. My advice would be pick one or two things, one or two platforms, really, I should say, and just be consistent with that in the beginning. And I think, that's maybe why it didn't work in the past, but also this, probably just wasn't the right time in the past. But it can be really overwhelming trying to share your message, whatever it is that you're trying to do, because there's so much social media, so many platforms, so much to do with marketing and technology, and it just gets overwhelming really fast. So I would pick one or two things that you want to do that are like feasible to you. It might be, okay, I feel like I could do YouTube. I'm just going to do that and I'm going to do it consistently. Then if I get a grasp on that, then I might move on to the next thing. But that's definitely something that I would say to do because I feel like that will make you more likely to succeed because you're just consistent with what you're doing versus just doing more things, but just only giving a little bit of time to them. And then, let's see, what was I gonna say? I'm starting to let me. And then B, it will make it easier on you for yourself. It just more likely to succeed, and then you don't feel like your brain is going in 6 different directions.
Yeah, I mean, and I think I would say just don't be afraid to start somewhere. Just take one small step at a time, and then the rest of it is hard to trust sometimes, but trust that the rest of it will just appear. It will just unfold. It's kind of like a magic carpet will be unfurled in front of you, but for that to happen, you have to take one step first and then the next step to kind of see the path of where you're supposed to go.
Small,
and don't be brave. Don't let your fear of like, this is so overwhelming. This is so hard and so confusing. And what if I fail? Don't let that keep you from just jumping in there and starting somewhere. And once you have a starting spot, it's, you'd be surprised how quickly what you need to learn and what you need to move forward will be provided for you.
So pick one thing, stay consistent. Don't be afraid to start. Just keep progressing in that direction, and each additional step will appear when it's time. I think that's great counsel. Yeah, excellent counsel. All right, you ready for a few fun questions before we wrap things up? And by the way, we're going to wrap things up in a few minutes here with a song. So I'm looking forward to that too. So stick around for that. But here's a few fun questions just about you guys. All right. So what's been the most enjoyable, or you could even answer it this way, depending on what you prefer, or the most annoying part of growing up together as sisters?
I'll go first. I think the most enjoyable thing is just always having a best friend. I mean, always getting to be with each other, always having a sounding board, and even like socially being always together. Like Katie said, I am a little bit more shy, but Katie is so not shy. So which is good because we balance each other out a lot like that. So that's been nice. As far as annoying, the only really thing, I mean, I'm sure I do tons of things that annoy you, but the only thing I can really think about is that growing up, when I was really little, I wanted to dress alike. Then I got to a certain age and I was like, don't dress like me. But we do have the same taste in clothes. So like we have a lot of the same pair, like exact same pairs of shoes, stuff like that. And then very often, like once we moved out of the same room, we would both come out and be wearing like same shoes, same shirt. And I'd be like, take it off. I had it first. I don't want to be dressed the same.
How do we know who really had it first if we subconsciously, unknowingly put it on without wearing it?
And I forgot to mention to people, and sorry to interrupt, I don't think I ever mentioned that you guys are twin sisters. I don't think I ever even said that. So for those that are just meeting the Pressley girls, and if you're listening to this on the podcast, they're twin sisters. I think I forgot to mention that somewhere along the way. Who was born first?
Katie.
I was
2 minutes older than me.
Yeah,
10 minutes. Okay.
Only 2
minutes.
2 minutes.
Oh,
We were
2 minutes.
babies, so it was a really fast. But yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything annoying. I think the only time I ever felt annoyed is when we were like almost 18, sleeping in bunk beds, and I was ready for my own room. I was like, I can't crawl in here, not after not. And Corey hit her head, and I would hit my head because I slept on the bottom on the top bunk. I don't think I ever felt annoyed. I think it's been the most enjoyable thing to just be like, I wish everybody had that sense of like, there's always somebody there. Like the ultimate sense of there's always somebody there. And yeah, it would be cool if everybody could feel that. But I mean, at least we like each other. I know twins who don't get along, and it's really a shame because I think that I think God knew what he was doing. He knew that I needed Corey, and he knew Corey needed me. So it works. It works pretty good. And when I misbehave, Corey just tells me to shut up and go to the closet. No.
He's able to speak into your life and tell you that. And I could tell that even as you're saying that, I could tell you're grateful. You know, that's the emotion is very much on your face. Like I could see that. So what a blessing that the Lord's blessed you in that way. So people probably ask you guys as twin sisters about some of like the similarities and similar interests and things like that you guys are into, and you're making music together and growing up together, doing all sorts of stuff like that. I'd also be curious to know what are some differences? Like what are some things that you would say are distinct differences? You've already listed one. You said Corey tends to be a little more shy. Katie, you tend to be more outspoken. So, what do you think? Like, what would be some of the differences you'd list?
Yeah, there's definitely differences. When we were smaller, younger, I would say, no, we're pretty much just alike. And now I would say sometimes we are as like as much as we are different. But yeah, like we said, I would say I'm more shy. I like to just kind of listen more. I'm not spontaneous at all. I like to go to bed really early. I like things to be, I'm kind of a control freak. I want to have my schedule, keep my schedule. I don't like getting off the schedule. And then Katie, I would say, is definitely more social, stays up later.
Monado.
But she's more creative. Like you're way more creative than I am. And that's why we go good together, because you have the creativity and the dream, and then I have the organizational skills to make it happen.
That's really well put.
Yeah,
I think that's most of it. Is I'm a very impulsive, like spontaneous. I'm just as likely to be like, sure, let's just fly to Hawaii and stay for 2 weeks. I don't even have a bag packed. Let's go. All I have is my license. That'll give me everything I need, right? And then Corey seems to be a lot more chillax and kind of more grounded. I tend to kind of, Dad says I like to climb the cliff just so I can jump off and be like, what am I doing? What am I gonna do? So that's very a good way to put it. Corey is the rational reasoning part, and I'm just the party.
But you're the fun. You're the fun side.
I love it. That's so fun. So I have to confess. All right. So you on your mother's channel, she has where she's sharing different things about Appalachian language and words and slang and vernacular, things like that. But from time to time, she'll also show some interesting food videos. Now, I don't watch cooking videos, but I recently was watching one of your mother's videos related to cooking a cube steak. And I thought, why am I watching this? Like, I don't even cook. I really don't. Like, I don't cook. Making a bowl of cereal is like the closest that I get to cooking, right? And I watched this, and then at the end of the video, she served it to the family, and I thought, wow, now I'm craving cube steak. And I've been thinking about that. I'm like, how do I get some of that cube steak? Can she send that up here to Pennsylvania somehow and have it stay warm the whole time?
Yeah. Probably, or like, I mean, people do ship food like ice like that, it's pretty good.
But I'm wondering, what's your favorite meal to have together as a family?
I think usually mine, I gotta say, would be like, well, maybe two things. Anything that involves deer meat, whether it's canned, fried, grilled, like whatever.
Roasted.
I love deer meat, and then potato salad. It's Dad's grandpa's recipe, and we usually don't, but it's kind of like an involved recipe, so we don't really usually cook it unless it's like a special time, because it makes a lot like at Thanksgiving or Christmas. So I definitely love the potato salad. I love the cornbread, but anything too with green beans.
Can I ask you a question about the potato salad really quick?
Yeah.
Do you use sweet potatoes or arch potatoes?
Arch potatoes. Yeah.
Can you tell that I've been paying attention, right? People watching or listening are like, what's arch potatoes? What's an arch potato?
Yeah. That's what Mama has always said. What makes that potato salad so good is the pickles. We put pickles in it, but the pickles we use are pickles we make. They're called 14-day pickles because it takes 14 days, and they're kind of almost clovey, which sounds gross,
but it's good.
It kind of gives it this little
candy,
sweet, crispy, like wangy.
Sounds good, but I'm still explain what an arch potato is. I just used a term, and you guys are glazing right over it because you're so familiar with it.
Right.
But nobody else knows what that means.
Mom just uses that to say like a white potato.
Yeah.
Instead of saying like, sometimes she'll ask me that, do you want an arch potato or do you want a sweet potato? I'm like, I just want a white potato, and she knows what I'm talking about. It's just a distinction between that or the little new potatoes
or the new potatoes, like the smaller ones that
or the ones with red skin on them, which by the way, I love them, and we don't even have them in our house, but I really like those.
Well, I think she said something to the effect of it comes from like Irish potatoes, and so somehow it got shortened to arch potatoes. But
she says so funny.
I'm learning. All right, so how about you, Katie? What would you say your favorite family meal is that you guys get to have together? And then you got to convince your mom to make it, make a video.
This mama. I know. I think it's funny. Part of what we said is that I like to have a meat, a vegetable, and then like maybe bread, like cornbread. I love fresh, hot cornbread. There's nothing better than that. But we also have a bread machine, which that's not necessarily Appalachian, but it's a bread machine that you just put the ingredients in 3 hours or so. So sometimes we'll have that. Our mom will make biscuits from scratch. Now that's really good. But favorite would probably have to be the fried deer meat. And then sometimes we'll do something called pickled beans and corn. And it's what it sounds like. It's beans and corn, like beans from like Shelly beans from the green beans. And you just pickle it. And so after that amount of time that it's pickled in this crock pot and you take it out and you put it in these jars, it's really sour and wangy. So if you like sour things or like sauerkraut, I do apparently like really sour things. So it's perfect to do and sometimes it's been a long time since I've had sauerkraut, but the pickled beans and corn, the deer meat, and then either cornbread, it could be homemade bread. It could be biscuits. We don't ever really do biscuits with the fried deer meat. Now we do the biscuits with the canned deer meat. Because that's the thing about in Appalachia, you can pretty much can anything you want. I have some friends, and if they end up hearing this or see this, they'll know who they are. They told me that they make their own sausage, and I said that's really cool. You know, I've heard of people doing that. We've canned sausage before. Do you keep your own pigs? You know, and slaughter your own pigs and make the sausage? They said no, our sausage isn't made out of pigs. I said okay, well, what's it made out of? They said turtles. I said, excuse me? They said no, not box turtles, or what we would call terrapin. Or terrapin turtles. It's big, like snapping turtles that would have a lot of meat on their bones. So essentially you can can anything in Appalachia, and anything canned in Appalachia is part of my favorite meal. But I have to try this turtle business to know what I
have never. That just sounds so unique. I've never heard of turtle sausage. I'm obviously it exists. It makes a lot of sense. By the way, there was a time recently I was looking outside of my office at the church, and I saw somebody in our parking lot, and I was trying to figure out what they were doing. There's a state park across the street from our church, or a county park technically. And there's a lake over there, and a big snapping turtle had come over across the street into our parking lot. And there was a lady out in our parking lot catching it with her bare hands, and the thing's twisting its head back and snapping at her, and she did not flinch at all. She didn't move. I thought she knows what she's doing, and she took the thing and she put it in a box in her trunk. So do you suppose that it was the most unique thing I've ever seen happen out there? And do you suppose she was making some turtle sausage?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, she was either doing it a favor by taking it back to the lake, or she was probably going to eat it. So there's more meat.
No fear.
Yeah, and I would be scared because those things can definitely bite fingers off.
They certainly can. Yeah. Well, all right. So I know you didn't think we were going to talk about all this stuff, but this was a lot of fun, and you guys are a lot of fun. And again, if you haven't yet checked out the Pressley Girls channel on YouTube, definitely check it out. Check out their website, thepresleygirls.com. Remember, there's 2 S's in Pressley, and you can grab their CD there and learn more about their music and all the different things that they're doing. And I just wonder, before we finish off with the song, what can we expect to see next from you guys, and how can our listeners keep up with your current projects?
Yeah, we're really trying to push YouTube. I mean, we have stuff on Facebook and Instagram as well, but we're definitely pushing YouTube. We're looking into doing t-shirts, so that should be fun. Mostly just YouTube, and trying to kind of branch out and see what we can kind of do from there. We want to do another CD at some point, but that's a lot of work. we gotta get that going.
Time and money. I will say one thing. Corey's gonna be like, "What? We didn't rehearse this. What are you gonna say?" But one thing that I do want to do here soon is I'm gonna get another piece of lapidary equipment, and we have this creek that we show a lot in our videos, and my mom shows it a lot. It's all the same creek, and sometimes I take the footage for her because it's an excuse to go play at the creek. And something that I have been really interested and impressed with is I love the creek. I love it so much that I made my own business off of it. That's what my jewelry and my lapidary business is called, Stamy Creek Creations. And what I essentially have done now is now that I have the lapidary equipment, I can go and just pick up rocks in the creek, take them home, cut them, polish them, and sell them. And I've been impressed and almost shocked. I'm like, now I know I love the creek, and I know I think it's special, but I almost feel like, it's so cool that all these other people like it. And I've had so many people say, "Hey, that creek is so pretty. Will you give me a creek rock? Will you go down there and get a rock and sell it to me?" And I say, I almost don't feel bad selling it. It's just a rock. But so that's one thing that I want to do is people have been wildly interested in the creek. And I'm almost like, but how do you even know? You haven't even felt the magic yet. But part of what I've been able to do is that magic that I feel, I'm sharing it by sending these rocks into the world. So something big that I'm getting ready to do is buy a flat lap and then make Corey use it. In Corey's spare time, Corey's going to be polishing these rocks. And we kind of have some different stuff in the Etsy shop, the CDs. Corey does some crocheted stuff. But I think it's really fun to offer up those rocks, because that really is a piece of Appalachia, a piece of us, a piece of home, of our home. That's a way to share it. So that's something big that I'm getting ready to do, buy the next piece of equipment and get on that. So there you go, Corey. Sounds good.
Surprise, right? Yeah. Well, I have to tell you that this was ridiculously fun today, and I'm so glad you guys were willing to come on the show and share about what you're doing. I know for me, you've developed a greater appreciation for Appalachian culture, and I find myself enjoying the music more, and just seeing all sorts of different things that I don't know that I would have even paid attention to or noticed if your channel and your mother's channel weren't really bringing that to my attention. And I really, like I said, I really hope my listeners will check out some of the stuff you guys are doing. There's just a lot of variety to it, but it's all very edifying. It's the type of thing that puts your mind in a good place. And that's something that I think is a gift from God. So thank you guys for doing that. And as we finish up here, what's the song that we're going to hear as we finish up our time?
I think we're going to play I'll Fly Away.
Lovely. All right.
Sing along if you'd like.
I'm clapping on behalf of all the listeners of Dwell on These Things. You guys are doing a fantastic job. Thank you so much for joining us today. This was really enjoyable to have you guys here, and a real honor to be able to introduce your music to our listeners.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
Yeah.
All right. So again, make sure you check it out, thepresleygirls.com, or you could check out their channel on YouTube, and that's also found at The Pressley Girls.